Hey, it's me Hrishikesh Kannan, popularly known as Hrishi K. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon now to get the latest videos and get taken into a world of entertainment, culture, sport, business and current affairs.
Kapil Dev was actually a young cub at the time, and he was given the mantle of captaincy. Sunil Gavaskar was already, captaincy material, and in a way, the film does show Kapil turning around and saying, "My God, there are 3 or 4 seniors in the team. How can I address them?" Sunil Gavaskar was going through his own inner turmoil because he had to take a step back as the leader of this outfit and as a captain and allow this young cub to come to the fore. And that's why sport shows great sacrifice. I'd like you to comment on that.
Yeah, for sure. For me, a sports film is never only about the sport. It's about the human drama and the human emotion. So the first thing I admitted to Kabir, and this might come as a surprise to you and your listeners, is I'm not from a sporting background. I'm not someone who, there were boys on the team who knew every cricket stat, who knew every cricket trivia. It's something I had to educate myself on. I was passionate about the acting aspect. And what made it exciting for me is what you just mentioned. What makes a part interesting is if there is conflict, and conflict is not a fight. It's just if there is turmoil or if there is drama in there, and that's where it makes it a human story. To play a legend who, and this is out there in fact, where it wasn't the most iconic statistical performance by him in the tournament, but there is a certain gravitas. There was a certain confidence that having Sunil Gavaskar on your team brought in that locker room. For me, the Bollywood parallel that I would draw to it is like you're sitting in a room and you've got Amitabh Bachchan. It doesn't matter if he's got lines. He could just be sitting in your background in short focus, but you've got a gangster in your room, man. And for me, that's what being Gavaskar was.
Tahir Raj Bhasin, great to see you.
Great to see you.
Well, I have to say this, that Sunil Gavaskar is probably one of the most interesting characters for cricketing as well as non-cricketing reasons. Because in a way, he was, from my alma mater, which is St. Xavier's College.
Oh, awesome.
He was in a lot of ways a Dadar, South Bombay kind of person, but he was also a master blaster. So culturally, let's talk about the culture aspect first and then we'll come to the cricket.
Sure, yeah.
Culturally, it must have been not an easy part to dig your teeth into.
Yeah, definitely. The 1983 team was such an amalgamation of different cultures, both in terms of region as well as language. And it was beautiful because that existed even on paper. And it just went to show that for cricket in this country, language or religion, race, caste is not a barrier, which is so refreshing, especially in the time that we're telling this story in. Culturally, yes, he was educated. He was from that generation of cricketers who were well spoken. What was also interesting as far as cricketing culture goes, as he is that generation that was making the transition from Test cricket to the limited overs game, which was in those days 660 overs. And although it's there in bits, but we've tried to incorporate that in the film as well. Just in terms of how his English is like he's the go-to guy when there's an English translation required. And these are all true stories that Kabir sir got from the team. He was a reader. He also wrote books. And it was interesting though to play like this mentor character who was just culturally different from the others.
Different is the word.
Yes.
For those of you who don't follow cricket, and because I'm a passionate cricket lover, I've got to inform you that what he talked about is absolutely correct. I mean, here was a man who in the previous World Cups played out 60 overs and, just made a bunch of runs in his 30s. And a lot of people were putting pressure on him saying, you're the greatest batsman in the world, but what about this format? But he was up for the challenge,
Yeah.
And by the end of his career, which of course 83 doesn't deal with, he also had a 101-day cricket. That means he was a man with a deep competitive instinct.
One of the first things I did before I accepted the role was he's got 2 books. It's called Sunny Days and the other one's called Runs in Ruins. I read both of those because you need to understand what the psychology of the man is. And one of the most incredible parts about Sunil Gavaskar, which is often not spoken about, is that he was not born with it, which people often believe. Like when you see incredible talent on screen, that he's got it. He's just got it. He worked on it. In fact, I remember reading an incident when he was in school or college when he was not chosen to play on the team, or he faced massive defeat, and he worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And from first year of college, by the time he finished, he went from not being allowed to play to the man of the tournament. And that to me just showed incredible dedication, that this was a skill that he was willing to work on. And that, for me, defined Gavaskar. How do you turn the odds, whether they are personal challenges or challenges in your game, into playing for the team, rooting for the country? And that is what that transition from Test cricket to the limited overs game. And when we're talking about Gavaskar, you're talking about 10,000 runs in Test cricket, 774, that iconic debut that he made, the most feared batsman against the West Indies, to take on that challenge. And he knows that the boys he's playing with are 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds. He was the oldest, senior-most player in that team. So he went in there knowing that this is, and to bring that to screen was the challenge. To play a man who had seen so many ups, perhaps so many downs, going into this game in a new format, to treat it as just another game, but then for it to become, and this is as per his interviews, the most memorable moment of his career.
Another interesting cricket fact is that Kapil Dev was actually a young cub at the time, and he was given the mantle of captaincy. Sunil Gavaskar was already, captaincy material, and in a way, the film does show Kapil turning around and saying, "My God, there are 3 or 4 seniors in the team. How can I address them?" Sunil Gavaskar was going through his own inner turmoil because he had to take a step back as the leader of this outfit and as a captain and allow this young cub to come to the fore. And that's why sport shows great sacrifice. I'd like you to comment on that.
Yeah, for sure. For me, a sports film is never only about the sport. It's about the human drama and the human emotion. So the first thing I admitted to Kabir, and this might come as a surprise to you and your listeners, is I'm not from a sporting background. I'm not someone who, there were boys on the team who knew every cricket stat, who knew every cricket trivia. It's something I had to educate myself on. I was passionate about the acting aspect. And what made it exciting for me is what you just mentioned. What makes a part interesting is if there is conflict. And conflict is not a fight. It's just if there is turmoil or if there is drama in there. And that's where it makes it a human story. To play a legend who, and this is out there in fact, where it wasn't the most iconic statistical performance by him in the tournament, but there is a certain gravitas. There was a certain confidence that having Sunil Gavaskar on your team brought in that locker room. For me, the Bollywood parallel that I would draw to it is it's like you're sitting in a room and you've got Amitabh Bachchan. It doesn't matter if he's got lines. He could just be sitting in your background in short focus, but you've got a gangster in your room, man. And for me, that's what being Gavaskar was. It was the swag that he brought. And the minute I signed the role on, I got calls from relatives from Australia, from UK, from the US to say, "Hey man, you're going to manage the acting, we're sure, but can you get the swag? The swag." And I've never heard that term used for a cricketer back in the day. And that's when I started to look at pictures and I was like, man, he was a style icon. The way he used to walk, the way he used to talk. So yes, there is a lot of drama, there is a lot of conflict, but dealt with so maturely, and that is what was important to bring on screen, that calmness.
Another very important aspect of the team in 1983 was there was a rumor that said that Gavaskar did not play. The other end of the spectrum, there was a rumor saying that he was dropped, but the reality is he was injured. And here's a man who used to face the fearsome fast bowling battery, and like Tahir said, scored 774 in that debut series in 1971 without even a skull cap, facing these fearsome fast bowlers. So there's no question of him not wanting to play. It was actually an injury, and I'm glad you addressed that.
The answer to this really depends on whether this interview is going to air after the film release. Okay, after the film release, so no spoilers. It is a touchy subject because I think anything controversial automatically flares up, and it's being dealt with in a very respectful manner. With Kabir Khan comes from a documentary background, which is incredible for a film like this because that's the school of thought that he brings on. And I would just encourage everyone to watch the film and have your own interpretation of what went on. It was a very tricky scene to do. It's a scene between Sunil Gavaskar and PR Mansingh with me, and that was a highlight for me in the film, to be able to do a scene with a powerful actor like Pankaj Tripathi and to have a chat out. And it's sort of been left open to interpretation of what happened. And people who've already seen the film have come to me with different questions and different answers. But for me, that's what art is about, right? Don't give a straight answer. So
Rajiv, who helped Balwinder Singh Sandhu train you in cricket skills, him and his wife Sanjeevani are mates of mine. And Rajiv was saying, to your credit, that you really are one of the hardest working guys in the bunch. Because with the others, and the promo say it all, it's not even a spoiler, which Krish Shrikant, it was about, "Main tuk tuk nahi karta hu, main bas marta hu." It wasn't about the technique. But a man with a copybook technique if you go wrong in that, then you're open to a lot of skepticism.
Yeah.
So they end the work. Let's come to the cricket of it, the straight drive, the square drive, a man who used to play down the ground and never hit up in the air, things like that.
Sure, I'm just going to dial the clock back a little bit. I'm not from a sporting background, which is what I've already said. A lot of players on the team had played in their college teams, in under-19s, which was incredible to see. But what I had the advantage of is I was coming out of a sports film in Chichore. Derek, the character I played then, he was an athlete. There was kabaddi, there was volleyball. So I knew from the very beginning that playing sport and shooting sport are two very different ball games. And I treated it like sports choreography. So I really studied Gavaskar's style and the technique and broke it down into what were the shots that he played during the World Cup. And then with Rajiv and Balu sir, what we would do is break down every single shot. So if we were doing a back foot defense, how many moves, literally dance moves, can you break that one shot in? And so you come in and the first 10 days, you walk into the nets, you see everyone playing beautiful cricket. You know that you're at the bottom of the food chain at the moment, but you have to turn into Gavaskar. And so for 10 days, all I've done is come in, grip the bat like Gavaskar does, the way he does, put one foot on the crease, sway the bat like he does, put the second foot on the crease, get your balance right, sway the feet a little. 10 days later, you add the second hand. Then you work on the back lift. You work on how much does your shoulder. So broken it down into little things. And I did not know till the shoot day how all of this would come together because we had never put it all together. And then when we finally put it down, because on shoot, you're interested in that one good shot. And so we did it, and one take, it was great. And I did not know till that moment, literally butterflies in my stomach, because I was way more nervous, like you correctly said, about replicating a master. And we live in a country where people are crazy about two things, films and cricket. So you're opening yourself up to criticism and judgment. But this film was about the physicality. It was the challenge, like, can I manage to pull this off?
The slip fielding, Tahir. Yeah. I mean, here was a master in the slip cordon.
Yeah.
And, there are a couple of tricky catches, even in the film, that are shown.
Yeah.
And to spring off from your feet for a guy who's never played a competitive cricket, that couldn't have been easy to do.
Definitely. And I think I remember reading somewhere he holds the world record outside of wicket keepers to take the most number of catches in the slips, which was incredible. Because, again, for people who don't know cricket, that's a difficult position to field in because it needs your eyes on the ball at all times and super concentration. So yes, Rajiv worked on that. There was a lot of squat work that was needed because your legs need to be really strong. Shooting, again, is different from playing cricket because you can have a 14-hour shift where you're standing in the slips. And unlike a regular film, it's not like, okay, cut, it's not your shot, you can go and sit in the vanity van for an hour. You're constantly on field because even if it's someone else's shot, you're still seen in the background. So yes, it was challenging. We had a physiotherapist on set right through, and it made me anxious because there were a couple of days when Sunil Gavaskar was on set and he was sitting behind the monitor watching that stance, and he's a perfectionist. So once we got the nod from him, we knew it was all easy going.
Yeah, Rohan, his son, tells me, and him and me are mates,
really?
That Sir has gotten a lot more easier and more chilled out over the sands of time.
Yes.
So I'm sure you got lots of support, and he seems to be a cheerful man. I mean, he likes a sense, good sense of humor.
Yeah. That's the thing I feel about when you talk of geniuses, is that they're incredibly focused when they're in their zone. But the minute you take them out, they can be completely at ease. So he's a charmer. He's got a sense of humor. He's got a sense of style. It's great.
And I like those shots where Ranveer and yourself are together. I mean, this is a dynamic that is very difficult to reproduce. Yeah. Sunny Gavaskar, Kapil Dev. Ranveer and you obviously get along even outside. It must have been great, recreating those moments.
Yes, for sure. It was. We're both at the same agency. We're both managed by YRF, so we meet in the corridors of the agency often. The only thing that was flipped over here is that Ranveer is the senior actor, and to completely change that dynamic was a challenge for both of us. It was great fun.
Okay, my last question is away from 1983. I'm doing a show called Climate Warrior, where I'm saying recycle your trash, separate dry and wet waste, air pollution, water pollution. What can we do to make the world a better place? I mean, look at Delhi now. The air pollution is so bad. What is your message for saving the planet? What are the small things that happen in the Bhasin household, for example?
For sure. I think very often the excuse that you hear from people is, what difference does it make if I use a plastic straw? What difference does it make if I do a plastic bag takeaway? But it's only when everyone makes their little contributions. So a couple of things that I've done at my house is I've removed plastic drinking water bottles and just made glass water bottles. Try and carry your own bags when you go to the grocery store. If you're ordering in, refuse plastic cutlery. That's something that I insist on. And while this might seem small in your everyday life, it can end up making a huge difference.
Lovely. Yeah. I'm going to ask you to autograph this lovely poster so that we have it on our walls. Tahir.
Awesome.
Well, conversations with you are always wonderful. I mean, you're really an actor's actor. And it's just wonderful to see you at work with your craft. It's a joy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.